Before we dive into the unsettling tale of the forgotten signal, I want to thank you for joining us on this journey into the unknown. If you love chilling horror and mind-bending mysteries, don't forget to like this video, share it with those who dare listen, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that will haunt your thoughts long after they end. Your support keeps these stories alive, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Now, turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and prepare yourself for the eerie tale of the forgotten signal. Let's begin. The first time the signal came through, I felt an immediate cold dread. It cut through the usual static like a knife, a faint whisper threading through the noise, so soft, so strange, that for a second I thought my mind was playing tricks on me. Just an anomaly. Static mixed with whispers that could have been interference from an old tower or some kind of freak atmospheric event. But then it came again, and again. I worked the night shift at Station 41, a remote relay outpost monitoring emergency frequencies. It was a thankless job, long hours, dim lights, and a constant hum of machinery that made you feel like you were part of the static. But when you're alone in the middle of nowhere, even static starts to feel like company. The first time I heard it, it was around 3 a.m. when the world feels the most hollow. A low hiss broke through the regular broadcasts, followed by a faint voice. It was almost too soft to catch, but I swear it said my name. Daniel. I froze, my heart pounding. The voice faded into the static, but then the signal shifted. The frequency adjusted itself, and a new sound emerged. Whispers, overlapping and distorted, like a crowd speaking just out of sync. I leaned closer, straining to pick out words, but the more I listened, the more my head ached. That's how it started. At first, I convinced myself it was my imagination. Long nights, too much coffee, and the isolation were getting to me, but the signal kept coming back. Every night at the same time, 3 a.m. like clockwork, and every night it got clearer. Daniel, help me. The voice was familiar, but I couldn't place it. It sounded broken, desperate, and the more I heard it, the more the station itself seemed wrong. The lights flickered, the air grew colder. The static began to carry other sounds, scratching, tapping, and something that sounded like breathing. Then the dreams started. They weren't just nightmares, they felt like something more. I'd find myself in the burnout ruins of Station 17, wandering endless corridors that twisted and stretched like they were alive. The air was thick and hot, the walls pulsing with that same strange hum from the signal. I'd hear footsteps behind me, slow and deliberate, but when I turned, there was nothing there. One night, I dreamed of a room I'd never seen before, a circular chamber with walls covered in symbols, glowing faintly in the dark. In the center stood a figure, face obscured by shadow, whispering my name over and over. The whispers grew louder until they became a scream, and I woke up gasping, my skin ice cold despite the heat of the room. But the worst dream came just before everything fell apart. I was back at Station 41, but it was wrong, silent, dark, and filled with that low static hum. I walked into the control room and the screens were filled with my face. My reflection grinned at me, even though I wasn't smiling. And then it spoke. "She's waiting, Daniel, and so are they." I'd wake up at my console, unsure of how I'd fallen asleep. The screens would show strange symbols, looping endlessly. My reflection in the glass seemed delayed, like it was moving just a fraction slower than me. And sometimes I'd see shapes in the darkness, tall, thin figures just at the edge of the light. One night, the voice changed. "Daniel, she's waiting." I couldn't ignore it anymore. I started researching the frequency, trying to trace its origin. What I found didn't make sense. The signal was coming from an abandoned relay station, Station 17, shut down years ago after a fire wiped out the crew. But the coordinates were clear. I had to go. The drive took hours, and by the time I reached Station 17, the sun had dipped below the horizon. The building was a blackened husk against the sky, but the antenna still stood. intact and humming with energy. Inside, the air was thick with ash and decay. The walls were scorched and the equipment was fused and twisted from heat. But the consoles still flickered, screens showing symbols I recognized from my dreams. And then the signal came through. "Daniel, you're here, help me." I followed the voice through the station, my flashlight casting long, jittery shadows. The air grew colder, and the walls began to hum with that strange frequency. At the far end of the station, I found the control room. And I found her. She stood with her back to me, her figure trembling as if the air itself pressed down on her. The room's dim, flickering light cast long distorted shadows on the walls, and a suffocating chill filled the space. My breath turned to mist. When she finally turned, her face emerged from the darkness slowly, too slowly, as though reality itself strained to hold her form. Her skin was pale and cracked like old porcelain, dark veins spidering beneath the surface. Her eyes, they were the worst, empty, black and glistening, reflecting nothing but my own terrified face. The scent of burnt hair and scorched flesh filled my nostrils, making me gag. The room's hum grew louder, warping into a low, distorted moan that seemed to come from the walls themselves. She stood with her back to me, long hair matted and blackened, shoulders shaking. When she turned, I saw a face I hadn't seen in years. My sister, Rachel. But it wasn't her. Her eyes were hollow, skin cracked and veined with darkness. "Help me," she whispered. The room began to collapse around us, reality bending and twisting in ways that made my stomach lurch. The walls rippled like water, their edges folding into impossible shapes. A deafening screech tore through the air, a sound like metal being twisted and shredded. The floor buckled beneath my feet, the cold seeping up through my shoes like icy fingers. The air grew thick and oppressive, carrying the scent of burnt hair and something far more putrid. The signal roared in my ears, and the darkness surged forward, clawing at my skin with an almost tangible force. The signal roared in my ears, and the darkness reached for me. I ran, but the station wouldn't let me go. I don't know how I escaped, but when I stumbled back into my car, the signal was still playing through the radio, and the whispers had followed me home, soft at first, almost gentle, but growing louder every night. They moved through the house like a cold wind, brushing against my skin and making the shadows dance. Sometimes I'd hear my name in their hissing chorus. Other times it was sobbing. And once, just once, I heard laughter, low and broken, right behind me when no one was there. But the terror didn't end there. Back at Station 41, things grew worse. The whispers became voices. I'd hear Rachel's cries mixed with other unfamiliar sounds, laughter, sobbing, and something guttural, like growls. The screens began showing faces, distorted and screaming in silent agony. One night, I found scratches on the walls, long, jagged marks that hadn't been there before. My reflection stopped following my movements entirely, standing still while I turned away. Then, the signal changed again. "Daniel, it's too late. They're here." I never should have gone to Station 17. I brought something back with me, and now it won't let me go. Thank you for staying with us until the very end. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to hit that like button and share it with your fellow horror lovers. And if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another terrifying tale. What did you think of the forgotten signal? Let us know in the comments, your theories, your fears, and what you think really happened. Until next time, stay safe and keep your ears open. You never know what you might hear. And remember, sometimes the most terrifying voices are the ones that call your name.